and black ones.
Okay, as usual, I'm going to put some notes on the board. Good. What's happening?
Did Wells give you details for this weekend?
No, I haven't heard anything.
Okay.
Shoot me email and show up. Let me know.
Okay. Also, second thing, as part of this project, we're like sharing it all over the internet and stuff like that.
Okay.
Is it possible to share that on your
Yeah,
page?
sure. Send me the link.
So I'll send you the link.
Send me the link. I got you.
Alright, perfect.
Alright, send me emails,
Yeah,
let me know everything going on.
Okay, sounds good.
Alright, I got you. Okay. Where's the rest of your classmates?
I think Ahmad is praying because he came late.
Making salah?
Yeah, making salah.
Okay. Alright, so today would be considered class 9, which means that we basically have 3 more classes after this one. And that will conclude pretty much the Meccan period for us. Hopefully we'll get to the end of the syllabus that you guys have, inshallah. Yeah, that wasn't up there, correct. Excuse me.
Is there maybe like a second course for the
For the Medinan period?
Yeah.
Perhaps. We hope so. I would like to continue this. I'll let you know. I'll have some information for you next week, inshallah, about where we are with this. Okay. Take out your notebooks. This is Seerah of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
It's not boogers, I just wrote something and I just have to throw it out. I wrote.
That's not what I'm on. That's a good question. What are you talking about? He said, are you comfortable? I said, that's a good question.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Okay, so we're still in what year are we in before the Hijrah?
5.
Year 5.
After Revelation.
Right, year 5 after Revelation. All right, so we're in year 5 after Revelation, and we talked last week about the group of Muslims who went to where? Yemen? They went to Yemen? You shouldn't be saying anything. You weren't here last week, right? Don't agree to anything right now. Where did they go? They went to Yemen?
Wasn't it Ethiopia?
Ethiopia, right. Why are you guys looking at me like I'm speaking another language?
I didn't know you were speaking French.
They went to Ethiopia, right? Escaping the atrocities, escaping the persecution of Quraysh. And in going to Ethiopia, they were they were actually trying to escape. They went back again because they thought that the Prophet ﷺ had reconciled. All right, now we fast forward to the 7th year, 2 years later. 2 years into the believers being skip too far ahead. We fast forward to the 7th year after Hijrah, when the Prophet ﷺ sent a letter to Najashi requesting what? 2 things.
I have a different thing. It's about a movie, the things that you're talking about. And I watched this movie, The Messenger. Do you know that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it had what we were talking about now.
Yeah, all the references are there. The Prophet ﷺ sent a letter to Najashi requesting what? What was he requesting?
Oh, marriage. But I had a question about that. So, why did he ask?
Can we get to my question? Go ahead.
So, marriage.
Marriage?
He wanted to marry the woman.
Who? Habiba. Who was she? Just some regular convert, or was she somebody of status?
She was a single mom.
She was a single mother
of Quraysh.
From Quraysh, from the upper class people of Mecca. She was the daughter of Abu Sufyan, one of the chiefs of Mecca. So she wasn't just some regular woman who converted to Islam. People were converting to Islam from different walks of life, even from the upper echelons of Meccan society, which made it very difficult for the chiefs of Quraysh to really do what they wanted to do, because a lot of their children were converting to Islam. So they really didn't know how to handle this. And this was also a contributing factor to the upsetting of the social economic status or status quo of Meccan society. All right. And he also was giving Najashi da'wah. He called Najashi to Islam. I read the letter to you last week of what he said. So now, go to find the section in your book where the title is بَعْثَ قُرَيْشِ إِلَى النَّجَاشِي تَطْلُبُ إِرْجَاءَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. That Quraysh sent a delegation of 2 men, all right, to Najashi to bring back the Muslims who left Mecca to go to Ethiopia. Do you find it?
Page 124.
Page 124. Page 124, we're reading from the abridged biography of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that is, let me hold the book up for those of our readers. Let me see a book real quick. For those of our readers who are following along, they actually have the book in English. All right, it's the abridged version of the biography of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam by Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah ta'ala, and we're on page 124. That Quraysh sends a delegation, emissary, a group to go and retrieve the Muslims who left Mecca, escaping, going to Ethiopia. And keep in mind the 2 people that went. All right, pay attention to these names: Amr ibn al-As and Ammara ibn al-Walid. One of these two men actually ended up becoming Muslim, who was Amr ibn al-As, who actually became a very close companion of the Prophet ﷺ. But as you can see here, he was not a Muslim. And usually at the very beginning of things, as we're going to see, there's actually a quote that I'm going to give you guys that I gave before, that people fear what they don't understand and they hate what they can't conquer. People fear what they don't understand and they hate what they can't conquer. All right, so at the beginning of Islam, you'll find that a lot of people, when the message first emerged, a lot of people step back and begin to show enmity and hatred towards Islam and the Muslims. All right, similar to what is happening in American society right now. Islam is fairly new, not necessarily new to America, but fairly new in the public sphere of American society. Muslims are now have integrated into American society. You guys are second, third generation Muslims, and you are American. You hold American passports. You are American citizens. And it's not really much America can do to you other than condemn you for your belief. And if you're able, as I put here, if you're able to stand in your discomfort without compromise, eventually we will get past this phase of the growth and development of Islam in this country, and we will be able to have a stronghold, right, in this society, because there's nothing they can do. Your parents may not be American citizens. Your parents may not hold American passports. All right, they can deport them. They can go back to their countries and then never come back. You, they can't do anything with. You are American citizens. You are American as apple pie or cherry pie. All right? Huh?
Well, we're getting ready for Thanksgiving.
No, we're not getting ready for Thanksgiving. No, we're not.
You just said pie.
That's a metaphor. It's a cliche. Very popular. You're just as American as cherry pie, apple pie, whatever. But that does not mean that we're getting ready for Thanksgiving, because we're not.
Really?
Do you know what Thanksgiving represents?
Giving thanks.
Really? Giving thanks? What rock do you live under? Oh my gosh. I need to give you a lesson in Thanksgiving. You want to commemorate and celebrate the slaughter of a whole the extermination of an entire nation of people? Native Americans, Indians, the original Americans, and you want to celebrate that?
We're Muslims. We have to give respect to them. So.
You don't give respect by celebrating the slaughter.
I'm not celebrating it.
Well, that's what Thanksgiving represents.
Where do you get that from?
All right, we'll continue that conversation afterwards, but you definitely need a lesson. I'm going to give you a 101 after this class is over.
I'll pay you.
I don't ever want to hear you say that again.
Pay for that.
Huh?
I'll pay you how much?
No, you don't have to pay. You're going to pay with your
That's
dignity.
right there.
You're going to pay with your dignity, because that is don't say that in public ever.
Say more.
That you're going to celebrate Thanksgiving to commemorate, the slaughter of millions.
I don't celebrate Thanksgiving.
You don't?
I just eat food. Just get my stomach.
You're just digging in yourself a deeper and deeper hole. Just stop while you're ahead. You're just going to jump right out of the kettle into the fire pan, into the frying pan.
Let's just get
Stop. Right, exactly. Exactly what I was thinking. All right, so لما كان بعد بدر اجتمعت قريش في دار الندوة وقالوا إن لنا في الذين عند النجاشي ثأرا فاجمعوا مالا وأهدوا إلى النجاشي لعله يدفع إليكم من عنده. So Quraysh, they gathered together and they decided, you know what, the Muslims who left, all right, because when you come from a particular society, people tend to think that they have this entitlement, that you are not entitled to believe. And the same thing happens here in America, is you'll draw a lot of correlations between what is happening to them and what is happening to Muslim Americans living right now. It's almost as because you're an American, right, that you are not entitled to believe anything other than what the status quo of American society tells you to believe in, all right, which is Christianity, which is, debauchery. This is the belief system today, the lack of a moral code, right? And you are not allowed to be moral. You are not allowed to say, I don't mess with girls until I'm married. It's like, well, what are you, gay? Like, you're not entitled to stand on your own moral system, right? You have to do what everyone else is doing, right? Colin Kaepernick, he took a knee, right? And you are not allowed to take a knee. It's just like, what? Like, we're not standing out protesting. We're not shouting and, right? We're not walking around with wiki sticks, right? Like they just did in Virginia, right? A bunch of Caucasians, a bunch of white people who decided, you know what? We hate what's going on here, and we're going to protest, and they're going to protest, and actually people died at their protests. Colin Kaepernick just simply took a knee, right, to protest police brutality and the murder of, innocent, African Americans, right, throughout America, and lo and behold, you are now demonized and criminalized because you are not allowed, right, to go against, the status quo of our society. So the Quraysh, they felt like the Muslims embracing the religion of Islam and then fleeing to Ethiopia was a smack in the face, and they don't have a right to do that. So we are going to go and retrieve them. So you can see this whole white supremacy mentality, right, carried out even amongst them. And white supremacy, make no mistake about it, it is based upon a status quo, not necessarily because of a color of skin. It's about a power structure. You understand? You know what a power structure is? What is a power structure? You live in a power structure. You live in America. You live under a power structure where people that look like me and you do not necessarily make the rules. You understand? But the rules do apply to us, and it doesn't apply to people that don't look like us. Right? That is what a power structure represents. And Quraysh and the way Meccan society was set up, Quraysh was the hegemony, the power structure, right? And this small band or group of Muslims that decided to believe differently than the way that they believe, Meccans felt like they didn't have that luxury to do that. And so they were entitled. So we are going to go get them and bring them back, right? Bring them back to Meccan society. And listen how this dialogue between Quraysh and Najashi plays out. There's going to be a dialogue here. Very beautiful. Beautiful. Yes?
Did they bring them back and it worked or not?
Just hold tight. Pump your brakes. We'll get there. All right, so they sent two individuals, Amr ibn al-As, who eventually ended up becoming Muslim. And he actually regretted what he did here, right? Because at the beginning of something, you usually take a different approach because you want to remain safe. You want to do the status quo. You want to stay where everybody else is because you think that that's the safest place to be. And then later on, you realize that the status quo, in most instances, is probably the wrong thing to do. And you only realize that after trial and error and after years go by and you finally realize and you're able to stand in your own discomfort and realize that, you know what? Taking the status quo approach was actually the wrong thing. And actually going against the grain was the right thing to do. But a lot of times when things happen, people are not, right? As I said, people hate what they fear, what they don't understand, and they hate what they can't conquer. Right? We hate it. We can't conquer it, and we hate it. Right now, they cannot conquer Islam. They cannot conquer Muslims because Islam and Muslims is not run by Muslims. It's controlled by a greater power. The only power structure, Rabbul Alameen, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is Malik Yawmuddin, the king, the owner of the day of judgment. That is the only power structure. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There's no power or might except with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So eventually, Amr ibn al-As became a Muslim. As for Ammar ibn Walid, then no. However, these two went to Ethiopia to retrieve the group of Muslims. فَلَمَّا دَخَلَ عَلَى النَّجَاشِي سَجَدَ لَهُ وَسَلَّمَ عَلَيْهِ وَقَالَ قَوْمُنَا لَكَ النَّاصِحُونَ وَإِنَّهُمْ بَعْثُونَا إِلَيْكَ لِنُحَذِّرُكَ هَؤُلَاءِ الَّذِينَ قَدِمُوا عَلَيْكَ. So when they entered upon Najashi, pay attention. They entered upon Najashi, they prostrated to him. Sajada lahu. They prostrated to him. Because as idolaters, people of idolatry, they didn't really have any morals or values that they stood on other than maintaining their power structure. Sounds familiar to the society that we live in, right? They don't care about morals and values. The only thing they care about is maintaining the power structure that is at hand. So even if we got to corrupt everybody, if we got to sell you pornography, we got to sell you sex, we got to sell you drugs, we got to sell you anything that we can sell you, we'll give it to you. Just as long as we can maintain our power structure. You understand? So they walk right up to Najashi and they prostrated. Made sujood. Why not? They prostrate to idols. So they don't really care. As the scholars, they have a saying, let them ba'da kufr. After a person disbelieves, there is no sin after that. Meaning a person can do anything after they disbelieve in God. They will do anything. They're moralists. They don't have any morals or values after they disbelieve in God. That is the greatest sin. So anything less than that is really irrelevant. It doesn't really matter. So they prostrated to him, they greeted him, and they said to him that we have come to you as sincere advisors. We just want to advise you. All right? Our people, meaning Quraysh, the power structure in Mecca, they sent us to you to warn you against those who came to you, meaning that small group of Muslims. لِأَنَّهُمْ قَوْمٌ اتَّبَعُوا رَجُلًا كَذَّابًا. Because now they are following a liar. They are following a liar. Now, mind you, what was the Prophet ﷺ's nickname before he became Muhammad? ﷺ, the Messenger of Allah?
Al-Amin.
Al-Amin. Trustworthy. He was known in Mecca as Al-Amin. The trustworthy one. Now they're calling him a liar. You see how people, they'll switch on you. The power structure will switch on you very quickly when you no longer serve their agenda. You get it? Very political. My language, if you listen to my language, it's very political because this was political. It's politics at its best. It's unfortunate that many of our imams, preachers, and teachers and leaders, when they speak about these issues, the politics of it is kind of like, whitewashed. We want to just give it to you in this, we want to wrap it in this like really spiritual, religious narrative and give it to you that way. So you walk away, having fed, the spiritual side of you. But the reality in which you live, you're never able to make those connections. And that's wrong. That's wrong. This was completely political. Everything. The Prophet ﷺ, the moment he stood up and he began to preach publicly, it became very political from the very beginning because he was going against a whole power structure. He was going against the status quo. And that's political, period. And they're going to do everything in their power to muzzle you. They're going to do everything that they possibly can to keep you quiet. All right? So to talk about the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ and not be able to connect that to the politics that go on generation after generation, it's a disservice to the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. It's a disservice to the Muslims who are not able, that door of connection between what we're reading and what we see going on in front of us. We're not able to make that connection. We're not able to connect the thread between the two. All right, so it's very important that when we're talking about these things, we cannot dismiss the politics that it is, that is saturated with. All right. So they prostrated to him. They said, we come to you as a sincere warner, advisor. The person that these people are following, they're following a liar. Kadab. He's a liar. Because the Prophet ﷺ no longer served the social agenda. They no longer served the agenda. He no longer, not that he served it before he became a prophet, but he never spoke out against it. All right? And if you are silent in the face of tyranny and oppression, then you have already chosen your side. You understand? What does that mean? If you are silent in the face of oppression, then you have already made your choice of which side you are on. What does that mean? What does that mean? Why don't you come over here?
Thank you, Sheikh.
Question. Be careful up against the wall. What does it mean that if you are silent in the face of oppression that you have already chosen your side?
It means that if you don't stand up, it means you're letting it happen. So you've kind of sided with it if you're letting it happen.
Right. If you don't say anything about it, then so as long as people were in Meccan society, didn't say anything about what was going on, and they couldn't possibly say anything about, because that was the status quo. Obviously, the Prophet ﷺ, he never committed shirk, he never worshipped idols. All right, but he always felt that this was wrong. All right, and that wasn't him being silent about it. That was just him waiting for a sign from God, right? To take his rightful place. Yes.
I just wanted to say my favorite quote.
Go ahead.
I have to do it. It's a JFK quote.
Go ahead. I love quotes. Go.
The hottest places in hell are reserved for those who, in times of great moral crisis, maintain their neutrality.
Very good. The hottest places in hell, quote by JFK, the hottest places in hell are reserved for those who do what?
Maintain their neutrality.
Maintain their neutrality in
great times of crisis.
In great times of crisis. MashaAllah. Very good. Glad you made that connection. When you come across these notes, these quotes, jot them down as notes aside or right alongside of the portions of the book that where we're at. And that way, when you go back and you read this material again, those quotes, those little notes that you make right there in your book, they're there. I make all of my notes right here in my book. So anytime I open my book, I will always be able to look down and see the quote that I wrote alongside of this paragraph or that paragraph to remind me of where my mindset was when I was reading it. All right, because your mind evolves. So maybe 5 years from now, I open this book and maybe I come across another quote, but I will still be able to remember the last reference that I used. All right, very good though. Awesome quote. All right, so they said that the Prophet ﷺ is a kadhab. He's a liar. Right now, because he's going against the power structure. Right? They'll malign your reputation. They'll destroy you. They'll assassinate your character. They'll do everything that they can to maintain their dominance. Understand? That is what white supremacy is about. When I say white supremacy, I'm not talking about white people per se. I'm talking about I'm talking about the power structure that they represent and that they protect. You understand? Not all of them, but those of the hegemony, those of the dominant culture. Without a doubt, they represent and they maintain a power structure. You guys follow me? What does it mean? What do I mean? When I say things, I need you guys to give it back to me so I understand that you understand what I'm saying. What does it mean? What does it mean to maintain a power structure? What does that mean?
Kind of maintain the status quo, the system we're living in right now.
The status quo, the system that you're living. And in the case of Quraysh, they wanted to maintain their dominance because they couldn't have people embracing a different faith and then going to another country, right? Because now that means that they're losing a grip on their own society, all right? Which is what is happening now. All of these people converting to Islam. You got young white kids that are converting to Islam. Now it becomes a problem. Now Islam is a problem, all right? So they said that these people, they follow a liar. He emerged from amongst us claiming that he is a messenger of God. And the only people that follow him are as-sufaha, the ignorant. What is the word that they use in the English? The stupid, the ignorant, as-sufaha. The only people that follow him are stupid people, right? This is how they look at Muslims, like we're backwards. Why are you don't want to sleep with girls? Like, who does that? Who don't want to sleep with boys? Who does that? You're backwards. Why do you guys pray 5 times a day? You guys are backwards. You're talking about some God that no one has ever seen. You're talking about some paradise, these virgins in paradise. They're going to paint you as backwards, right? Yeah.
I think what you just talked about is that some of them were what Quraysh said about is that why do they pray 5 times a day?
Mm-hmm.
And who's their God?
Yeah. They said they only follow, the only people that follow him, meaning Muhammad, the only people that follow him are the sufaha, the ignorant, the stupid ones, right? He said, so we track them into this valley and we boycott them. La yakhruju minhum ahad. No one comes from amongst them to us. And no one goes to them from, now they're explaining to Najashi how they're treating the Muslims in Mecca. He said, so they are being killed because of thirst and hunger. All right, and it's sad that we're having this conversation right now, considering what is happening in Rohingya, considering what is happening in Yemen, considering what is happening Muslims. I mean, the children in Yemen right now are starving to death. Right now, we're talking about what Quraysh used to do to Muslims in the early period of Islam. And today, it's the same narrative, but now it is Muslims doing this to other Muslims. Right? And you can thank Saudi Arabia for that, amongst other nations.
So
right?
Rohingya, it's the Buddhist nationalists, like
right.
in the country,
Right.
Yeah.
But why hasn't America or any other superpowers intervened? You wanted to stop Saddam Hussein because he had weapons of mass destruction and he was a tyrant and it was oppressing his people. But here you have thousands, if not millions, of Muslims being slaughtered on a day-to-day basis by Buddhists, and no one intervenes, right? When you had, people in Yemen who were trapped on a mountain, you sent them all types of food and supplies or whatever the case, you intervened. But as long as Muslims are being slaughtered, there's no need to intervene. Let them be exterminated, and there's no need to intervene. So now you have children in Yemen right now that are being starved to death because they don't have enough food. Innocent people being bombed, innocent people being killed, right? No intervention from the world powers. Why? Because intervening will not serve necessarily their agenda. It doesn't serve their agenda. So why? What are we getting out of it? There's no oil in Yemen. There's no, national gross product that we can actually benefit from. For what? What are we going to intervene? What is in it for us?
What does Saudi Arabia have to do with this?
What does Saudi Arabia have to do? Now you're taking me deeper in the political rabbit hole. What does Saudi Arabia have to do with it? They have everything to do with it. They're bombing Yemen. But why are they bombing Yemen? What issue does Saudi Arabia have with Yemen? They're serving Saudi Arabia is serving another agenda. They're serving someone else, another power structure agenda. And it ain't Saudi Arabia. Make no mistake about that. Anyway, so فَدَعَاهُمْ Najashi. So they said that we've, relegated them to this area, the Shi'b in this valley. They don't eat. They're being فَقَتَلَهُمْ الْجُوعْ وَالْعَطَشْ. Thirst and hunger is going to kill them. فَلَمَا اشْتَدَّ عَلَيْهِمُ الْأَمْرُ بَعْثَ إِلَيْكَ ابْنُ عَمِّهِ لِيُفْسِدَ عَلَيْكَ دِينَكَ وَمُلْكِكَ. They said, and when our tyranny and our oppression became unbearable for them, their commander, right, meaning Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, commanded them to come here to you in Ethiopia to corrupt your religion and to corrupt your kingdom, right? فَاحْذَرْهُمْ. Be aware of them. All right, so this is the narrative that Amr ibn al-As and Ammar ibn Walid is feeding Najashi. And the beautiful thing about Najashi as a ruler, as a Christian ruler, he just didn't accept their word. He wanted to hear from the Muslims themselves.
Where is Ethiopia?
Ethiopia?
Yeah.
It's East Africa, brother.
East Africa?
Yes. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say it's right under Egypt.
Yes, right under Egypt. The only thing that separates Ethiopia and Arabia
is between Sudan and
is the Red Sea.
Between Sudan and Egypt, or it's on the east?
No. Sudan is East
South.
Africa, but it's on the side of Ethiopia, whereas Egypt is up top. It's above it.
Okay.
All right. So they sent their leader, their commander, the son of their uncle, sent them here to you to corrupt your religion, corrupt your kingdom. Be aware of them. فَادْفَعُهُمْ إِلَيْنَا لِنَكْفِيَكَهُمْ. So give them to us. Send them back to Arabia with us and let us deal with them. Right? وآية ذلك أنهم إذا دخلوا عليك لا يسجدون لك ولا يحونونك لا يحيئونك بالتحية التي يحيى بها رغبة عن دينك. And they said the proof that these people are here to corrupt your kingdom and corrupt your religion is that when they enter upon you, they're not going to prostrate to you. They're not going to prostrate to you, nor are they going to greet you with the greeting that you like to be greeted by. And that is because they don't like your religion. So this is what the conversation between Amr ibn al-As, Ammar ibn Walid, and Najashi. So now listen to what Najashi does. فَدَعَاهُمْ Najashi. So Najashi called the Muslims. All right? And this shows you that there was a level of integrity there. That Najashi didn't just accept the word of these two, right? He wanted to hear from the other side. And this is how you know that a person is fair and just. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, إِذَا تَحَكَّمَ إِلَيْكَ خَصْمَيْنِ, that if two people come to you arguing or debating an issue, then do not judge between them until you heard from the second one, just like you heard from the first one. This is what makes you a good judge. This is the dua that Prophet Sulaiman asked for. He asked for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make him judge between people with justice. And this is how you know that a person is fair. They want to hear both sides before they make a judgment. So Najashi didn't just accept their word. He wanted to hear what the Muslims had to say. So he called them. فَلَمَّا حَضَرُوا صَاحَ جَعْفَرَ بِنْ أَبِي طَالِبْ بِالْبَابِ يَسْتَأْذِنُ عَلَيْكَ حِزْبُ اللَّهِ. So when Najashi called for them, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, this was the Prophet ﷺ's cousin, Ali's older brother. Right? This was Ali ibn Abi Talib's older brother. And he was the Amir, he was the leader of the Muslims who migrated from Mecca to Ethiopia. All right? He was in charge of them, of that delegation. Right? So he screamed loud. He said, يَسْتَأْذِنُ عَلَيْكَ حِزْبُ اللَّهِ. The party of Allah, the group of God, the party of God seeks permission to enter upon you. Right? فَقَالَ نَجَاشِي مُرُوا هَذَا الصَّائِحْ فَلْيُعِدُّ كَلَامَهُ. So Najashi said, tell the person who just yelled that out to come forward and tell him to say it again, repeat it again. فَفَعَلَ فَقَالَ نَعَمْ فَلْيَدْخُلُوا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ وَذِمَّتِهِ. So Najashi told them, enter, come in by the permission of God. فَدَخَلُوا وَلَمْ يَسْجُدُوا لَهُ. So they entered, but they didn't prostrate to Najashi. Right? So mind you, Amr ibn al-As, the guys from Quraysh had already told Najashi what? That they don't respect your religion. When they enter upon you, they're not going to prostrate to you. So when Ja'far and the Muslims entered upon Najashi, lam yasjudu lahu, they didn't prostrate to him. Now, when I say learning to stand in your discomfort without compromise, that's what I'm talking about. Because you would think that Ja'far and the Muslims, a small group of Muslims, ran out of Mecca to Ethiopia, seeking asylum, seeking refuge, afraid, and going to Najashi for aid and assistance. You would think that they would prostrate to him, right, to placate his feelings, to at least let him think that they were good people. But no. Even under the situation where we're vulnerable, I'm still not going to compromise my religion. All right? I'm still not going to compromise.
Who's Najashi? Which religion was he?
He was Christian.
Christian.
Yes. Najashi was the Christian king of Ethiopia.
That part is in the Messenger.
Huh?
That part where they didn't pray for him?
Yes.
In the Messenger.
Mm-hmm. It was in the Messenger, yes.
And when does he become a Muslim?
Well, we're going to get to that.
Okay.
All right? So, learning to stand in your discomfort without compromise. You can write this quote or you can write this note right here next to that. They entered upon Najashi and they did not prostrate to him. And that shows you that, in such a short span of time, they had only been Muslim for 5 years, right? So that means that this wasn't necessarily the result of Islam. This was the result of true faith. True faith when it comes in contact with Islam. There are some people who already had a belief in God, and when Islam came to them, it only confirmed, it only made them more comfortable in their faith, in their belief. See, what we do today, especially for those who convert to Islam, we wait for the faith of Islam to, click for us. Right? What do I mean by that? Meaning people convert to Islam and they, pass year after year after year after year go by without actually engaging their faith. So they'll sit and it's like you're waiting for this miracle to happen, right? And some days you pray, some days you don't pray. Some days you're on your deen, some days you're not on your deen. You may take a sabbatical, a year break from Islam, right? You know, you have people who convert to Islam and they don't pray or fast or anything for about a year, 2, 3 years. And then they jump right back on their deen and they get enthusiastic. They want to become, serious about Islam. They take a year sabbatical, 2 years sabbatical. They say, do I have to take my shahada again because I took my shahada, but I wasn't really praying or practicing Islam. They're waiting for faith to ignite inside of them. They don't engage their faith. Whereas these people, subhanAllah, the early generation of Muslims, from the moment they embraced Islam, they had no other choice but to engage their faith. Meaning, not sit around and wait for Islam to have an impact on them, but engaging their faith so that it would be easier for Islam to have an impact on them. You guys follow me? Don't sit around and wait for something, catastrophic or something magnificent to happen in your life to say, okay, now I'm ready to be Muslim. No. That enthusiasm should be there from the very beginning. They didn't prostrate to Najashi, even though they were in Ethiopia looking for help. And you would think if you're coming to someone looking for help and I want you to prostrate to me, you're going to prostrate to me. Why? Because you want my help. They said no. Even though we're here, we're vulnerable, we ran out of Mecca looking for help from you, and although we need your help, but we're not going to prostrate to you. That is what I mean when I say learning to stand in your discomfort without compromise. They were vulnerable, small, only 12. But at the same token, they weren't there to compromise their faith. And so you guys have to understand that in your lives, you're going to be put in situations where you are going to be vulnerable. And at that moment, are you going to say, like Colin Kaepernick right now, they could offer him some money and say, hey, listen, stop taking a knee. And we'll hire you. We'll let you play for this football team or that football team. Just stop with the whole take a knee thing. I'm sure that some people have made him offers. But you have to learn how to stand in your discomfort without compromise. Not going to happen. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's uncomfortable. I'm broke. I don't really have a lot of money. Endorsements have turned their backs on me. Everything. It's cool. But you know what? I'm not going to compromise. Moral values, integrity goes a long way, man. Goes a long way. So they didn't prostrate to him. فَقَالَ مَا مَنَعَكُمْ أَن تَسْجُدُوا لِي. So Najashi questioned them. Why didn't you prostrate to me? What stopped you from prostrating to me? And listen to what he said. Ja'far, he said, قَالُوا إِنَّمَا نَسْجُدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي خَلَقَكَ وَمَلَّكَكَ وَإِنَّمَا كَانَتْ تِلْكَ تَحِيَّةً لَنَا وَنَحْنُ نَعْبُدُ الْأَوْثَانِ فبعث الله فينا نبيا صادقا فأمرنا بالتحية التي رضيها الله سبحانه وتعالى وهي الإسلام تحية أهل الجنة. All right? He said, Ja'far said, we didn't prostrate to you because we only prostrate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who created you and gave you the kingdom and the dominion that you have. Subhanahu, powerful. He's talking to the king. Here's a vulnerable man. He went there for help. And you're basically, holding a mirror up to him, showing him that you're not the real king. You're a king, but you're not the real king. That's basically what he's saying to him. You guys following me? Powerful, man. I don't know. Am I getting over enthusiastic about this? Or do you guys see what I see? I mean, I'm a stickler for dialogue. So when I read books and I see like a conversation between two people and the dialogue is powerful, that moves me. I love it because it's almost like I'm right there in the middle of the conversation. I can actually hear the conversation right now. Like I'm standing right there hearing this conversation happen.
And it could also make you sort of change your mind about your religion, maybe.
What do you mean?
If you're powerful. Like me.
Yes, that's another thing. This is psychological warfare because Najashi being a powerful king and they've seen his palace and his riches and his kingdom, some people will sell their religion for that. Some people, when they get in the presence of opulence, right? You're in the presence of kingship and opulence. I was looking at this clip on YouTube and this African guy, I think he's a sports player, and he was given the Knight's honor by the Queen Elizabeth. All right, and the clip was on Twitter. And in order for him to get knighted by Queen Elizabeth, he's a sports player. I think he's a runner or a football player or something. And he had to kneel down in front of the Queen, and she put the thing around his neck, right, and basically took the sword and went from shoulder to shoulder, you know, honoring him. And I said to myself, there's no way that I could do that. Even if she wanted to honor me, man, send me my medal in the mail. And I'll skip the whole procedure of kneeling down, because I'm not kneeling down in front of you. I'm sorry.
You kneel for Allah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you're in the presence of, you know, kingship, queenship. But at the same token, I'm not kneeling down in front of anyone. I'm sorry. Send me my medal in the mail. I'll be good with that. And I'll skip the ceremony. It's all good.
But you gotta pay some money for that.
Huh?
You gotta pay some money.
Probably. I mean, you know, she's probably not going to give you the medal. And that's the cost of learning how to stand in your discomfort without compromise. You will find later on in your lives as you guys grow that you are going to be challenged. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to leave you as you are to say that you're a Muslim and not challenge your faith. And you will remember the words that I'm saying to you right now. I guarantee you, wallahi, I guarantee you, in your life, you will remember the words that I'm saying to you right now. You're going to find yourself in compromising situations, and you're going to say, subhanallah, I remember years ago, I was in this course, in this class, and this instructor, he told us that one day in our lives, we were going to be put in compromising situations, and we would learn how to stand in our discomfort without compromise. It happens. So, Ja'far said to Najashi, we don't prostrate to anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Powerful. He said, the one that created you and created the kingdom that you reside over. You're the king, but you're not the real king. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who created you and created the kingdom that you have. He said, وَإِنَّمَا كَانَتْ تِلْكَ تَحِيَّةٌ لَنَا وَنَحْنُ نَعْبُدَ الْأَوْثَانِ. He said, we used to do that, right? We used to greet our idols when we were idolaters. We used to prostrate to our idols. He said, but when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with the religion of al-Islam, then we only greet you with the greeting of Islam, the greeting of the people of Jannah. Salamun ala man ittaba'a huda. Peace be upon those who follow right guidance. We're not going to prostrate to you. That's what we used to do in Jahiliyyah. That's what we used to do to our idols. But when Allah sent Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the religion of al-Islam, we don't do that to anyone anymore. Anyone. I remember I took my kids, I was going to put them in a karate class. And you know, in a karate class, you bow, you nod to the sensei, right? And I told the guy at the beginning of the class, I said, my children are Muslim. We don't do the bowing. I said, is there any other way that you can be accommodating for them? He said, oh, no, we have to do that. And you know what I mean? I think he was a little arrogant because he knew that I was Muslim. He said, oh, no, there is no compromise on that. We have to do that. I said, okay, well, I'm pulling my kids out. He said, okay, well, thank you. I said, okay, bye. I told my kids, let's go. Period. I'm not going to do it. And then I went to another place and I told the guy, I said, you know, is there any other way? He said, yeah, we can do like a cool handshake, a cool slap when the Muslim kids come up. And he said, I would be willing to accommodate that. And he accommodated me. Alhamdulillah. But if you don't say anything, they're not going to say anything. And we don't go in front of a sensei and, you know, bow. This is rukur. Bending down like that, that's rukur. We only do that. Now, someone could say that's a bit extreme. Come on, dude. Like this is their culture or whatever the case. But what about our culture? Why do we always have to put our culture as Muslims on the back burner to accommodate everybody else? And that is the problem with Muslims, especially in America. We want to accept and accommodate everybody else's culture and never stand up for our culture. Look at all of the Muslims in public school. And look at how many public schools serve halal food. Not one. But in Detroit, in the public schools, Michigan, there's an influx of Yemenis and Muslims that live in those areas. They serve halal food, even in the public school. Because they demanded it, absolutely. They demanded it. Think about, just recently, the Eid was not even recognized as a public holiday. Up until just a couple of years ago, even in New Jersey, which recently just got it. Huh?
Yeah, the Philadelphia school district.
Philadelphia school, in Newark, New Jersey, they have it.
We got it too.
In Essex County, they have
We
it.
have it too.
Leonard Township doesn't have it.
Yes, Philadelphia has it.
North Philly kind of raised some.
But think about how many years, while the Muslims are bickering and fighting amongst each other, the real struggle for us is to make sure that our children, you guys, have the privileges of all of the sacrifices that we made. Muslims are in politics. Muslims are taxpayers. Muslims, we make so many different sacrifices, but yet our sacrifices for you guys have not manifested. So you guys are second, third generation Muslims and still not able to benefit from all of the sacrifices that the people who came before you made. Yes?
So I did taekwondo for a couple of years, and like, is it the same thing? Because I used to do like the bow thing too, but like the other person bows, like you both bowed. Is like, is it still a co-op? Like you both bow?
It's still the same thing, even if both of you bow. It's their greeting. It's their culture. And Islam and our tradition, our religion, as you can see with Jafar, even this small group of Muslims in a whole other country, underneath a whole other religious rule, vulnerable, minority, and yet they still stood on principle. It doesn't matter. We can't compromise on that. Someone could say, well, that's a bit extreme. And I could say bowing is a bit extreme. I could use the same argument. Someone could say, well, not doing this just because you're in a dojo or you're taking some type of sport. Why can't you do that? That's a bit extreme. And I could say doing it is extreme. I could use the same argument. It's the same thing with shaking the hand of a woman. When it comes time for you to receive your diploma and you get on stage and, the professor's there, you're graduating, whether your undergrad or your graduate degree or your PhD, and you're on stage in front of everyone. And, the professor is handing you your degree and stick out her hand to shake your hand. Now, we know in Islam, in Islamic culture, we don't shake the hands of women that are not your mahram, that are not your immediate family members. All right, someone could say, well, that's a bit extreme. Just shake her hand and get your degree and keep it moving. No, what is extreme is to totally reject the fact that the Prophet ﷺ never touched the hand of a woman. The Prophet ﷺ said touching the hand of a foreign woman, a strange woman that is not your immediate family member, is worse than holding a hot piece of coal in your hand. Next time you have a cookout and you look at the little block of bricks that we use to heat the food up, and when that charcoal becomes red, try taking that piece of charcoal out with your bare hands. It's worse to touch the hand of a woman that is not your family member than to hold a piece of coal, hot coal in your hand. Now, to say, well, not shaking her hand is a bit extreme, I could say the same argument. Shaking her hand and dismissing what the Prophet ﷺ said is a bit extreme. Stop thinking that it is okay to compromise on your faith. It's not okay to compromise. And believe it or not, in our society, because people are not used to making accommodations for things that are outside of the norm, people are actually amazed to see Muslims who actually practice their religion. I took my family, we went up to Blue Mountain in the Poconos to do like the skiing, sledding, and you go down the tubing, right? And it was time for Salah, right? So mind you, we're in the mountain, in the Poconos, there's hundreds of people up there, and we're like, where are we going to pray? We're outside in the snow, it's time for Salah. We didn't have no intentions on going home or leaving out or whatever. What in the world do we do?
Did you have musalla actually?
Do we have a musalla? You don't need a musalla to pray. Pray
you could just
wherever.
play in the snow.
You could.
You could have, like, before, like, leaving home, like, if you're leaving around the time of Dhuhr, you could have paid the Dhuhr. And,
no, we left before Dhuhr. When we got there, we got settled and everything, and then it was time for Salah. So what did we do? We went into the main cabin area, and we asked one of the workers there, we said, is there a place where we can go where we have to pray? We're a family, we have to pray, we're Muslims. And he said, sure, there's a prayer place over here you guys can use. He went, he cleaned up the area, everything. He said, is that okay? I said, yes, it's perfect, fine. And he said, you know what? I'm going to wait outside the door to make sure no one comes in and bother you guys or whatever. Very accommodating. But that wouldn't have happened if we didn't ask. That wouldn't have happened if we didn't ask. Believe it or not, people would be willing to make compromises for you, to make sacrifices for you, but a closed mouth doesn't get fed. If you don't say anything, no one else is going to say anything. All right, so
know your mind.
hopefully you guys learn this concept. Standing in your discomfort without compromise. All right, we'll go for about 10 minutes and then we'll be done. All right, so Najashi, when he heard him say that, عرف النجاشي أن ذلك حق وأنه في التوراة والإنجيل. Najashi knew that this was the truth, that they shouldn't prostrate to him, because he knew this from the Torah, and the Injil, from the Bible, the Old Testament, New Testament. He was a man of scripture, so he knew that this was correct, that they shouldn't be prostrating to him. فقال أيكم الحاتف يستأذن فقال جعفر أنا فقال فتكلم. So he asked, which one of you is the leader? All right, that asked permission to enter. And Ja'far said, it was me. And Najashi said, تكلم, talk. And Ja'far said, فإنك ملك لا يصلح عندك كثرة الكلام ولا ظلم وأنا أحب أن أجيب عن أصحابي. So Ja'far said that you are a king, you are an emperor, and it is not appropriate for someone to speak excessively in your presence. He said, nor oppressively. He said, and I would love to respond on behalf of my companions, meaning I'm going to speak on behalf of all of the Muslims that came with me. He said, فَأَمْرُ هَذَيْنِ رَجُلَيْنِ فَيَتَكَلَّمْ أَحَدُهُمَا فَتَسْمَعْ. He said, so let these two, right? Let these two, he said, فَأُمِرَ هَذَيْنِ رَجُلَيْنِ فَيَتَكَلَّمْ أَحَدُهُمَا فَتَسْمَعْ. He said, so one of the two, he said, let him talk and listen to what he has to say. Right? One of the two people from Quraysh. فَقَالَ عَمْرُ لِجَعْفَرْ تَكَلَّمْ. So Amr, right? Amr al-As, he said to Ja'far, talk. فَقَالَ جَعْفَرْ لِلنَّجَاشِي سَلْهُ أَعَبِيدٌ نَحْنُ أَمْ أَحْرَارٌ. So Ja'far said, ask Amr al-As, are we slaves or are we free men? All right, because as slaves, they wouldn't have the luxury of leaving Mecca and traveling on their own, right? He said, ask Amr, are we slaves or are we free men? فَإِن كُنَّا عَبِيدًا أَبَقْنَا مِنْ أَرْبَابِنَا فَرَدَدْنَا إِلَيْهِمْ. He said, and if we're slaves, then we'll remain as slaves to them and we'll return back to Mecca with them. So Najashi asked Amr, are they slaves or are they free men? And Amr said, Bal ahral kiram. He said, no, they're gentlemen, noble men that are free. They're free men, they're not slaves. فقال جعفر هل أهرقنا دما بغير حق فيقتص منا. He said, Ja'far said to Najashi, ask Amr, have we spilled anyone's blood unjustly so that, retribution should be taken from us? So Najashi asked Amr, and Amr said, La wala qatra. No, not even a drop of blood. Ja'far said, فَهَلْ أَخَذْنَا أَمْوَالَ النَّاسِ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ فَعَلَيْنَا قَضَاؤُهَا. He said, ask Amr, have we taken anybody's wealth unjustly, so much so that we have to return the wealth back to them? And Amr said, وَلَا كِرَاتٍ. Not even a little bit. فَقَالَ نَجَاشِي فَمَا تَطْلُبُونَ مِنْهُمْ. So Najashi turned to Amr and said, what do you want from them? They're free. They're not slaves. They're free to go as they please. They haven't spilled anyone's blood. They haven't taken anybody's money. What do you want from them? What are you requesting from them? What is wrong with these people that you chased them from Arabia all the way to Ethiopia? What did they do? Listen to what Amr al-As said. He said, كُنَّا نَحْنُ وَهُمْ عَلَى أَمْرٍ وَاحِدٍ عَلَى دِينِ آبَائِنَا. He said that they, along with us, we were all on one religion, the religion of our forefathers. He said, فَتَرَكُوا ذَلِكَ وَاتَّبَعُوا غَيْرَهُ. And so they abandoned the religion of our forefathers and they followed another religion. That's their only crime. As Muslims in America, your only crime is that you do not follow the status quo religion, which is Christianity. As a matter of fact, Christians, many of them, don't even follow their own religion. Your only crime as a Muslim is that you do not follow the status quo of American society. And the fact of the matter is many Christians that live right here in America do not even follow their own religion. So why are you finding fault with me? Why is Islam a terroristic religion? Why am I a terrorist? Why do you hate me? Why do you consider my book, the Quran? Why do you consider the Sharia, the legislative rules and laws in the Quran, something that is antiquated, something that is old-fashioned, something that is against democracy, against American society? Why? For no other reason other than the fact that you do not follow the status quo. People fear what they don't understand, and they hate what they can't change. You follow me?
I think Umar ibn al-Kufar, they were angry of the Muslimin because they left their religion at first. Now it's gonna make them, they have to fight because the Kufar wanted them to be the biggest religion.
Not necessarily, but they wanted dominance. They wanted to maintain control. Because as long as, here going back to the socioeconomic status, as long as people were worshiping idols and going to the store and buying, they were consumers, they're no different than people who live here in America today. Every time a new record comes out, every time a new album comes out, Justin Bieber, Fulan, we go out, we buy it. Every time a new movie come out, we go out to the movie, right? We go to the church, we pay the church, the preacher, for Jesus, right? And, we just keep it going with society. Ruffling no feathers, going against no green, all right? But now when you say, all right, I'm a Muslim now, I don't worship Jesus. I'm sorry. I don't believe Jesus is God, with all due respect. All right. As a matter of fact, Jesus doesn't even believe Jesus is God.
We believe him as a.
Jesus doesn't even believe Jesus is God, let alone me. I don't believe Jesus is God. Jesus doesn't even believe Jesus is God. That's number one. Number two, I don't partake in your whole banking system of interest. Right. I take a loan for $100,000 and then I gotta pay $2 million back. Right. Yeah. I gotta pay more than 100% back. So I'm generationally in debt. Not only am I in debt, my children are in debt, my grandchildren are in debt. I don't buy into that system. I'm sorry. The whole idea, get up, go to work every day and be a slave to a company or an organization, work for 20 years only to be fired because you have new fresh blood that you want to bring in, and I'm supposed to just sit at home and collect a pension, collect a check for the rest of my life and just die and wither away. No, sorry, I'm an entrepreneur. I make my own money. The best food that you can eat is from the food that you work for. Bi'amali yadi, the food that your hands earn. This is the best money, the best food that you can eat. Our religion teaches us to be entrepreneurs. Understand? Why am I going to go spend 4 years in a college to graduate with all this debt and then come work for an organization or a company for the rest of my entire life and die with the same debt that I had when I graduated from the university? That is backwards. Why not graduate from the university, take that education and become an entrepreneur? Work for yourself. The worst thing that a human being can do is have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 children and all of them work for somebody else. How about that? Instead of creating a company and employing yourself and working for yourself. This is far-fetched from the average mind because we like the cushion, right? The comfort of having a job. I have a job. I work. I receive my check every 2 weeks and you punch a clock, which is indicative of you working on a slave field. You get up and you slave. I don't care if you're sick, you can't take any days off because you don't have any more days off, right? You're only given 2 weeks, 10 days, and a whole year to take off. 365 days of a year, and all you have is 10 to yourself. The rest of those days go to your slave plantation that you work on, right?
Your family.
Huh?
And it goes to your family.
You don't have time for your family.
No, if you want to pay for your dad or mom.
You don't have how many children out there don't see their parents because they're constantly at the slave plantation working. You don't see your dad, you don't see your mom because they're working all the time. I mean, like, subhanAllah al-Azim, man. This system has us so wrapped up. And the only people that can actually see it for what it is are those who are actually woke. And I'm hoping that if you guys are not woke by now, at least part of your eye is open. You can kind of see through the blur. You can see that there's something on the other side of this. It's not normal. It's not normal life. Nonetheless, Najashi, Ja'far said to, Amr said to Najashi that we were all on one religion, and they abandoned that religion.
what about like important, like necessary jobs, like doctors and like different things that like are more crucial to like society?
All right, what about jobs that are more crucial to society, like being a physician, being a doctor? Work for yourself. You can be a private physician. Have your own business, your own company, your own clientele. You don't have to go to a hospital, because the fact of the matter, if you work for a hospital, you work for a pharmaceutical company. You understand?
So you don't want to.
You don't work for the hospital. You work for the pharmaceutical company that funds the hospitals that you work for. You understand? And they want to come there, they want to sell you their product so that the clients that come in, the patients that come in, you diagnose them with all types of diagnoses just so you can sell the pharmaceuticals that the pharmaceutical company gives you. You follow me? So it's not about, you don't work for a hospital, you work for a pharmaceutical company. Make no mistake about that. All these people being diagnosed with this disease and that disease, they got a disease for everything. Why? Because they have medicine for everything. You understand?
Who has medicine?
They don't create a disease without already having what they believe is the cure for it. So they come up with all of these different, remedies, these diagnoses. You're this, you're that, you're this. And there's some medication you can take for that, right? And it may cause drowsiness. It may cause you to lose your hair. It may cause to make you impotent. It may cause you to do this and that. But guess what? You'll be cured. Yeah, but you'll be cured of one thing and you're stuck with a whole bunch of other things. Yeah, that's the game. Figure it out early. What about the natural remedies that people used years ago before all of this medicine, right? Make no mistake about that. So yeah, while I do respect people who have those degrees, and those are necessary, tools, necessary expertises to be used in our society. But to go to work for a hospital because you graduated with a degree in some type of field, or you're a physician, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to work for a hospital. But we want the big names behind us. I work for the University of the big ones in the University of Penn in Philadelphia, UMDJ in Newark, New Jersey. You work for all of these huge hospitals because we want the big name behind us. But really, you work for a pharmaceutical company. Make no mistake about that. Own your own. Have your own business. Create your own clientele. We're Muslim, so creating clientele shouldn't be that difficult. You pray at the masjid. You say, brother says, oh man, my leg hurt. You say, hey, I'm a physician. Here's my card. Come take it, You just got your clientele just to go to the masjid and go pray. It's literally that simple. This is why congregational prayer is so important, because you meet the community at the masjid.
And you could find people.
And you can find tons of people.
Your job.
Right. فقال النجاشي وما الذي كنتم عليه وما الذي اتبعتموه قل واصدقوني. So Najashi turns to Ja'far and he says, so what is the thing that you guys now believe in, and what is it that you now follow? Be honest with me, and we'll continue that discussion next week, inshallah ta'ala. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. The last one, if you didn't write that, in war the first casualty is truth. And we'll talk about that next week, inshallah. I still did not receive midterms from you guys.
I haven't received, I don't know, maybe I put in the wrong email, but I haven't received the email.
Thank you.
You sent me your email, right?
No, I put my email down in the list of other emails.
But you gave me the email, right?
Yeah, I put it in the notes.